day and a half of travel that way.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It's going to be a lot.
Super exciting. Where do you plan on going over here?
Flying into Phuket, and then we're going to stay across the bay from there in a smaller town. Phuket seems a little too touristy, and kind of remind me of a little Waikiki, where it's like developments down the waterfront. Packed with people.
That's very exciting.
Now we were going to try to go somewhere domestically this summer, but it's so expensive to fly anywhere. And it was like, all right, well, it's for the same price as going to San Francisco.
Oh, man.
I mean, not quite. It was a little bit more. But,
Do you have like a direct flight straight from PDX?
no, it's Portland to LA, LA to Singapore, and then Singapore to
Okay.
But I'm excited to see the Singapore airport.
Yeah. How long of a lane is that from LA to Singapore?
18 hours.
All right, welcome back to round 2 here at Guardian Games in Portland, Oregon. This is Modern Mondays. We're Portland Paper. I'm Travis Cooper, hanging out with disc golf director extraordinaire, ultimate frisbee director, also extraordinaire, weird combo deck magic mediocre player, Ian Lunger.
Oh, yeah. Shower me with praises.
And yeah, it looks like we've got another fan of the jam in chat, and that is our theme song by Lex Butera, which is yeah, it's bops.
A certified banger.
Yeah. We've got what's going to be a fun matchup here, I think. We've got on our left Greg Hag playing Grixis Death Shadow. We've got a revealed revealed companion, and we have on our right Andrew playing Rakdos Scam, no companion. And you know, it took me a while to embrace this. I thought Ian was lying to me. I did not believe this deck was called Scam, but then I was perusing the modern Reddits and other people called it Scam, and so I'm trying to, you know, I like when a deck name isn't like Teamer thing or Grixis thing. Like I like the old school deck names, like we got Cheerios, we got Cephalid Breakfast, and so I can get down with the deck called Scam. I like it. It's flavorful.
Yeah, and it really works with what the deck is trying to do. So for those that have not seen this deck is looking to get down a quick Grief or maybe a quick Fury depending on the matchup, and then blink it with one of the black kind of undying effects, many of which do no longer use the keyword undying. But there are a ton of different effects that are kind of 1-mana black effects that bring a creature back into play when it dies, that give it a 1/1 counter after it comes back into play. So you can really rip somebody's hand apart with a Grief, or just completely decimate a board with a Fury if you're evoking it and then bringing it back.
Draw two, lose two.
Oh wow, we have a Night's Whisper. That's bringing me back to, you know, 2018 Magic when you were playing, you know, Night's Whisper and Faithless Looting and Griselbrand. But yeah, pay 2 life, draw 2 cards. What a deal. All right, we have a Darcy for Greg and a pass back. No scamming has happened.
No, it's been an honest matchup thus far.
It feels like maybe we might get a Blood Moon here, and that can be a scam against this Grixis pile.
That does feel very likely, given that Andrew has fetched the second swamp.
Oh, first scam.
Greg takes a look at the hand of Drown in the Lock, 2 expressive iterations that will not be able to be cast. So here's the thing. The way that Greg gets out of this is to put Giganta in hand and cast Giganta. Giganta is actually a very valid plan against Blood Moon. I know it sounds insane, but playing Giganta and then tapping Giganta for mana to cast your spells, because it is a mana dork, after all, is extremely valid here.
All right, we have a K command, one of my favorite modern cards, with the do 2 damage, return creature from graveyard, getting the Ragavan back, deploying the Ragavan. And the thing about Giganta is that you're going to have to cast it and have it not die.
Greg with the basic mountain in hand, just the rub-ins when your opponent has the Blood Moon.
I feel like Blood Moon has been pretty medium bad and modern lately, and I do love a good Blood Moon. I also appreciate land destruction. These are things. These are some of the things that I love.
You know, if Greg had read that his opponent's deck was named Scam, he would have, of course, expected that the Blood Moon play would be likely.
Of course.
Okay, great question about the borderless K command art. So I must say, when I was going through the spoiler, it struck me as extremely ugly, but I have a hard time, like, if other people like it, I have a hard time judging that, because I really do believe that art is subjective enough that I can kind of get behind anybody's art preferences, because I find all the time that I like some of the arts that are the cheapest for various cards. So I don't know. I have a hard time personally judging it, but I don't find it great for myself. I don't think I would go for it. I'm curious what chat. What does everybody else think of the new borderless K command art? In fact, I'll bring it up here while we're sideboarding. So Travis, we're discussing. They just previewed the new borderless Kolaghan's command art. And I mean, we'll see whether chat thinks it's controversial. It is so similar. Yeah, it really is similar to the Duress art. That's a great way to describe it. Let me see if I can bring it up here.
We got Hackerman going on our card fetcher over here.
It's the internet speeds. It's not me, it's the internet speeds. I'm telling you. Okay, you ready for this, Travis?
Yeah. I haven't actually seen it yet, so this is going to be like the.
All right. First impressions.
Not a fan.
Okay.
First impressions, it reminds me of like Kaladesh or Amonkhet, where it's a bunch of like CG art that has like kind of low effort stuff into it, where there's like a lot of layers that are going on a computer. Doesn't look like someone actually spent time like painting it, and yeah, it's like very generic looking to me.
Yeah. Well, which is, and really, I honestly think for K Command, it's kind of too bad, because personally, I actually don't feel like any of the arts for K Command are that cool. Like, I'm not really that big of a fan of the original art either. So I feel like this was kind of a big opportunity for that artist to like really cash in on some like really dope art.
Yeah, I feel like the cons block is sort of my, like, that is the pinnacle of my least favorite Magic art, where I think they just moved to like paying the artists the least amount of money, and artists are doing like max efficiency stuff, so it was like tons of CGI things, and I think what happened that was super cool was at a certain point, like a little bit after that, artists began selling their original copies of art for like a lot of money on eBay, and then like artists realized that even if they were getting paid like shit from Wizards, like if they had their art on a popular card, that they could sell the actual print for a or the original copy for a ton of money. You know, we're talking like $10,000+. So it sort of like reverted back to like interesting original art on like physical media, which is like what I like about Magic cards. And I'm totally fine if people digging like digital art, and it's like not a diss on digital art in general. It's just not, it's not what sort of gets me into like caring about like the aesthetics of a card.
Okay, you guys, we're in for a treat because Travis never looks at spoilers, so he's always clueless about what new card art looks like. So we can even show him the new version of Terminate and see what he thinks.
Okay.
Same.
Ooh, he samesied it.
Yeah.
I like this one. I think it's like, it's got some Ixalan vibes. I don't know, it's definitely like a little bit more abstracted. it's still maybe a little too obvious.
It looks like a It looks like a cartoon. It looks like Clone Wars to me, or something, where it's like a violent thing is happening, but we're cartoonifying it so that children can watch it.
Oh boy, yeah, this would have been on the flavor text. Definitely the downswing of flavor text. I gotta say, not a fan of the flavor text, but I can get into the Clone Wars style art.
Anyways, we're playing Magic here. Oh my gosh, we're starting game 2 of round 2 of Rakdos Scam versus Grixis Shadow. And Greg's on the play after getting Blood Mooned out. Do we care about another Blood Moon? No, we don't.
No,
We're going to fetch
absolutely
and shock
not.
and get a Steam Vents. Wow, we have a flavorful username. Hot damn it. Scam, which almost sounds like scam, so.
Oh yeah.
Turn 1 Ragavan for Grid. What removals is Rakdos Scam packing in? As a resident expert.
I honestly don't know, but I can't imagine it's not playing Lightning Bolt. It's playing Fury, of course. Like, you know, kind of the #1 way to remove things is to cast a Fury and then flash it back, essentially, with an Undying effect.
Quinn is asking what's Rakdos Scam. It's like a black-red mid-range deck that you're playing like 8 Undying effects. You're playing Furies, you're playing Griefs to get the sort of, you know, 3 for 2 eviscerate your opponent's hand at the beginning of the game, or like get a 3/3 double striker on turn 1 after removing an opponent's creature. Also playing Blood Moon, Seasoned Pyromancer. So you're kind of all in on to like get godding your opponent, and playing Dothy Voidwalkers usually as a 4 of some in the mix between the board and the main deck. So you're like good against graveyard decks. You're gonna take your opponent's cards out of their hand. You're gonna Blood Moon them, but you're a little bit like you're also going down on cards because if you're pitching for elementals and then like buying them back. So it's a little bit more like swingy than Rakdos midrange.
I'll cast it.
I do find it really interesting that this deck... Oh, so Greg did decide to go ahead and cast this easy peasy. I mean, that is, you know, that's how you want to do it. If not getting a real victory, you get a moral victory by casting your opponent's cards with Ragavan. I gotta say, I am honestly extremely surprised that we do not see Malachor Rebirth occurring in at least one of the kind of top recent scam decks. I guess maybe because it not giving the 1/1 counter keeps you from closing the game out, but I felt like that as a potential land drop, even though it's definitely a worse Undying effect, just seems so much better, like, to pave out consistency for the deck.
It looks like we have Unlicensed Hearse that Greg brought in out of the board. So we've got an Iteration, a Hearse, and is that Thoughtseize in hand? Looks like it. Looks like a Theros Thoughtseize to me.
I worry about playing Kaito in this matchup, although I could see Kaito on the play a lot more than the draw, given that we could potentially get Kaito down pre-Blood Moon. I think as long as you're countering Andrew's important plays, you're probably in great shape. I am kind of medium on Greg bringing in the Hearse, especially into the Kolaghan's Command deck. That's maybe the sideboard decision that I would potentially take issue with on Greg's side.
Okay, the thing about that is like why Hearse isn't great against what Andrew's doing, because Andrew's going to do a lot of the cool like pitch the thing, undying it on turn 1 or 2.
Oh.
But what Hearse does is it allows you to play against Blood Moon, and so you'll be able to develop a really big threat against Blood Moon and kind of some Moon insurance if you have enough worse cards to take out. And that looked like Andrew is really flooded. Can we get a look at Andrew's hand?
Yeah, it's all lands. It just got Thoughtseize. All lands and a village rights, I believe, is the last card in hand, which can sack a creature to draw 2 cards. Not super useful when you don't have a creature to sack. But there is a den. There is a den. So at some point, Andrew may be able to activate the den, and then if Greg removes it from the battlefield, Andrew can village rights in response. But that's going to be expensive mana-wise.
So I think we can Darcy and Hearse in this turn, and we even have Bobble. So a lot of times when you're playing Shredder, you're gonna want to like kind of limit yourself. You want to play 2 spells a turn, but you don't necessarily want to cast all the spells that you can. Because you're going to like maximize the amount of convives that you're going to get off Shredder. So Greg actually ditching the Hearse right now believes that Shredder is going to be enough of a threat. Yeah, no reason not to rebuy Gigantha unless you have a counterspell in hand.
Yeah, I mean, chat's obviously making the important point that Hearse can hit the creatures that are kind of targeted with the Undying effects when they hit the yard, but before they come back. But to me, like, it's just going to be a little late a lot of the time because the way the scam deck works is it's looking to do that like before you get the Hearse down in the first place. And then later in the game, it's not really going to use them that often. It's going to hard cast the spells.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's not great. Andrew's not really hard into the graveyard shenanigans after the first couple turns, but hers can get to be a pretty big threat. All right, and we drew off Bobble, drew for turn. We're gonna get an iterations. And kept the card on top because it was a land. Definitely always good to make sure you're gonna hit for 0 there. We're revealing a shadow.
And Greg's looking all sorts of great here. I mean, we're looting with Shredder. We've got a great board. Andrew was extremely flooded. Very likely that we're going to see a game 3 shortly.
And man, I think having played with Shredder a fair amount recently, there is kind of an interesting tension between wanting to filter your lands away when you have spells in hand that are good, and then wanting to get counters on Shredder. And it looked like Greg wanted to value dashing the Ragavan and then discarding a Shredder to get a counter on Shredder instead of pitching the land.
Oh, let's go to game 3.
Okay, so it's the Fable of the Mirror Breaker. I thought maybe that Andrew had ripped a Hidetsugu Consumes All. Although actually now looking at some of the recent lists, it looks like some of the recent lists are not playing any copies of Hidetsugu Consumes All. But I do love that card into this matchup.
It looks like Chad is asking, do we agree considering Ledger Shredder a blue Tarmogoyf? It's like, it fits a similar role if you think about old school, like modern, like Rug Delver or Rug Scapeshift, but it's like a bit different because you need to be actively casting multiple spells a turn to get value out of it. So I think they're a bit different. I mean, obviously one's blue, one's green, but like I think you're incentivized to build a deck a certain way and to play a deck a certain way when you're playing Shredder. Where with Tarmogoyf, you just want to be like casting all of your cards basically, and so I don't super like the comparison, but I see where it fits this, like having something that grows to be more than an X3 in Modern fits a certain role.
Right. Yeah, I mean, in a similar vein, you're hoping to play Goyf and have it be a 4-butt kind of early in the game.
Yeah.
And Ledger Shredder, you're also feeling a similar way where you're in an ideal situation if you can play Shredder and then have it immediately be a 4-butt.
I do like the tension on the whole like Shredder Darcy. They play decently together. Some are replacing others depending on what the threat package is, and I think it's fun. It's fun with the different sort of tempo decks in Modern. There's not like a set like this is a correct threat package to have. It really depends on the meta you're expecting to play, the play style you want, and they all can be equally good.
I misplayed pretty hard game 2, and then
And I do feel like Shredder right now has an advantage where if your opponent, people have played against the card a fair amount, but if you haven't played with the card, you sort of forget that it triggers if you're the opponent on your second spell too. And I definitely still see people like forgetting that, getting got, like cast their removal spell into the second spell. Shredder is able to like convive into a counter spell or something, and like that. I feel like that aspect of it being a card, because people aren't familiar with the correct play patterns around it, is going to wear off in a bit, and it'll be like a little bit less good. I still think it's an amazing threat and will be like highly played, but I think it does have an advantage now that folks don't quite know how to best play around it. Kind of like when someone's playing against Infect or something for the first time, and like you don't, like, there's a point where you're supposed to cast your removal spells that is obviously better than other points.
I don't think that people should have access to those powerful answers.
All right, we're deep in consideration for mulligans here.
Looks like Greg is ditching the hand.
We're already reined in.
Always feels a little bit better to mulligan when you're on the draw, because even if your opponent doesn't mulligan, you're at least at like card parity for the beginning of the game. It is like one of the worst feelings to mulligan when you're on the play and then your opponent keeps.
Now nobody even plays pack.
Greg's just such an impressive guy. He's always so even keeled about mulligans and things like that. Greg's a great opponent.
Yeah, Greg, very, very good Magic player. Played against him for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. Very jolly person, very like heads up Magic player, and like zero salt.
I'll keep this.
All right, Greg keeps the 6. We're deciding which card to ditch.
And we can't forget, Andrew's also fantastic.
Yeah. Andrew, also a great Magic player, and also one of those folks that doesn't get salty. I feel like if you're signing up to play a deck like Scam, you also you should emotionally agree to not get salty when bad things happen to you. Now we got turn 1 Thoughtseize.
Yeah, you're not giving your opponent the bad beat story after you lose of, oh, I was like really upset that I didn't draw grief into like ephemerate effect, and I was so upset about that, as though your opponent's gonna feel for you.
All right, leaving the Spell Pierce up here. Oh nope, we're gonna just play the Darcy. So Andrew took the Shredder. So I mean, to me that would, if I was in Greg's shoes, I'd be like, oh well, Andrew probably has a removal spell for Darcy, but at least with the Bobble, you're gonna get some value out of this Darcy, even if it just eats a removal spell. Greg finds out what's on top. Can we see what Andrew draws? Oh, that was good timing.
Thanks.
Let's pick up the hand, Andrew. What do you got in there? We're gonna get some shuffling. And Croxa, I think, is what was seen off Bobble. We're gonna get the Bolt for the Darcy. Looks like
a Ragavan.
There's a Ragavan.
Might be a Hearse, definitely a Fable, and a Croxa. Can't tell what the artifact. Maybe that's a Fury. There's definitely a Croxa, Fable, and Ragavan.
Yeah, I think we bolted there, even though it wasn't super mana efficient, just because of that Spell Pierce. Seems like a pretty decent time for a Croxa right now.
Greg has Drown, Iteration, and a land in hand, so I imagine...
I'm pitching land at this point, even though it sucks to take 3.
Well, I think Andrew's just throwing a Ragavan on the battlefield.
Oh, okay.
So, Greg, we're going to see cast the Drown here, and then Andrew will have the Croxa stuck in hand for at least another turn.
Yeah, I was assuming Andrew was going to just like jam the Croxa there, but no. I mean, which I do kind of, I don't know, that's, I like playing Croxa earlier when your opponent has a 2 to 3 cards in hand, hand, because then you're for sure getting a card out of your opponent's hand. If you cast it later, like Greg could, untap, draw, like, play a land, play a threat, and then has a spell pierce up. Crooks would get that.
Ooh,
But
Andrew has an Undying effect in response to the drown, so the Ragavan will be removed from combat, but will come back onto the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it. So Greg's going to be really hoping to hit a 1-mana removal spell here off the Expressive Iteration. Gotta hit.
Another
And
iteration.
that is a heat.
Oh, do we have a land in Greg's hand right now?
Yeah, there's 2 lands in Greg's hand, I believe. So we're going to definitely be exiling the heat, putting the iteration in hand, and land to the bottom. I think a pretty easy Expressive Iteration here. See Greg fetch. Probably got to fetch Shock here because it's not like we can fetch. Greg could fetch the basic mountain here, but I feel like you're fine if you're Greg. Fetch Shocking. Basic mountain's not going to do you anything, but Greg making the really heads up play to fetch with the Scalding Tarn. There's a Bloodstain Mire in hand, and Greg's keeping that because I believe that Greg will probably be trying to fetch up the basic Swamp next turn to at least have play around Blood Moon a little bit.
Yeah, basic Swamp more valuable than basic Island in this matchup.
And there's no basic Island in this Grixis Death Shadow deck, or at least there hasn't been for any of the versions that I've been aware of.
Did you want to cut him?
We did recently see a Black Cleaves Cliff in a Grixis Shadow deck, so
It was a surprise, yes.
Yeah.
Anything
Who
is
knows?
possible.
Oh, Andrew with the token. Look at that.
It's actually
Not the right token, is
No.
it?
I actually don't know. Don't quote me. Don't quote me. It could be, but I don't think so.
It looks like there's some Sharpie. But we're trying, A for effort, maybe C- for execution.
Yeah, I'd like to see in big Sharpie letters "makes treasure."
Hell yeah. Alright, we got a Ragavan, we have a land, and...
There was an Unholy Heat in there. So imagine we're going to exile the Unholy Heat again. So Blood Moon is going to be a problem because, again, Greg's going to have to go ahead and fetch.
I think you go basic mountain at this point. Unless you're really wanting to get, like, your potential Death Shadow, like, bigger.
I think I'm with you.
Because you have another fetch land in hand.
Yes.
Which you're probably going to pitch to Kroxa. So that's going to deal you 3 anyways, so Basic Mountain seems like a good call right now.
But also, Greg probably unaware of the Kroxa.
We saw it off Mishra's Bobble.
Oh, did we?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
And seen it bad.
Alright, are we
Although
getting...
I can't imagine Andrew would not just pitch the Kroxa here. Yeah. So this is going to be scary for Greg because Andrew can now just escape the Kroxa. And I cannot imagine, that very much seems like a good play here. Especially given Greg has not gone through that many cards in the deck, and we're down 2 Unholy Heats already. Which can get really scary if you're on Greg's side.
And I also want to give a shout out to Andrew. We've known about this Spell Pierce since turn 1, and Andrew has played this game to make Spell Pierce irrelevant for the way that Andrew sequenced. Which, that's... I feel like that's a just really good play pattern right there.
Also, of note, Andrew's been able to be on the front foot basically this entire time, which is extremely helpful. And Greg hitting the unlicensed hearse just a turn late.
Ouch.
Yeah, that's a disaster.
Yeah.
I think if you're on Greg's side, you gotta just run out the Ragavan and the hearse and just accept that you're taking 9. But oh man, the Fable's gonna flip too. Tough spot. Maybe you run out the hearse and then put Gigantha in hand. You're gonna. Well, the thing is, you're gonna lose your card if you have any cards in hand. Interesting.
I don't see a way out of this, to be honest.
I mean, you gotta hit a heat. So Greg has to hit a heat. Get rid of the Croxa.
Oh, we need that Fable to flip.
This, yeah, I mean, Bolt could be cast on draw step.
Yeah.
But oh man, yeah, this puts Greg in such a tough spot.
I think you have
And
to.
if you're ditching the hearse.
Yeah. I think.
Well, the thing is, you die on board, like, but I see what you're saying. Like, hearse is maybe your only way. What does it even look like on Greg's side? Maybe like expressive iteration into like removal spell plus Death Shadow.
Well, I think if you kept the hearse, you could have potentially drawn removal for Croxa, be able to exile Croxa with hearse, take the hit from Kiki, and then draw out of whatever happens next.
Fetching where?
But if you ditch the hearse, I don't see how Jingantha really like
9 instead of 10.
Keeps you from dying. to
keeps you
Croxa.
from losing.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there.
Because there's a bunch of cards in Greg's deck that can get Croxa. We've got like Fatal Push. We have however many Unholy Heats are left, probably 2. Drown. Yeah, like so. I mean, maybe actually not Drown right now because there's only 4 or 5.
Croxa's only two CMC.
Yep.
See something off the top. That's not good enough off the top. Jingantha?
Oof. So this means discard whatever cards in hand, which is I believe a Thoughtseize. Chump block with the Giganta.
Yep. Sure. Let's see. Take 2.
Tap land. I'll pass.
So do it.
And Greg flips the land, and that is game. Andrew takes it with Rakdos Scam.
All right, I'm going to bump out there. We've got a fair amount of time left. I'm going to see if anyone else is left playing that we could bring you all for the rest of round 2.
I've been tempted to go back to it. I just don't have my ledger shredders yet.
Yeah.
I missed that train.
Yes. I know it's crazy how much they spiked. The deck, it draws so many cards that it's really bad. It just kind of feels like with this fire, it just grows. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
Because it has even something and everything, Just love it. I was playing Rakdos for a while, and I really like that deck too.
Yeah. Play what I enjoy, not just try to make the best list. Buy new cards every week
And it feels like that. It's so real too. Where I get the other thing too, where I can see it looks really cool. It's a real good way to get the last card.
Yeah, and then 100 bucks later, you play it twice, and you're like,
Yeah. Like it's fine, but I like when I was playing before. Right? Those stuff before. Yeah, if you wouldn't mind recording on the ground.
Oh, I can do that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't have the
oh yeah.
mistakenly forgotten this time.
Good luck the rest of your night.
Thank you as well. That deck is so cool. I loved it.
Yeah, having a lot of fun.